So it's Epiphany Sunday, and the term Epiphany means to show, to make known, to reveal. You could also say it means to shine light. And the Magi observed his star at its rising as they began their journey to discover what that might mean. So we gather together today to celebrate the story of the Magi who followed the star and bring gifts to the Christ child, and by doing so reveal Jesus to the world. The Magi brought their gifts to the infant Jesus, and interesting, they were the first Gentiles to acknowledge Jesus as king. And so they were the first to show or reveal Jesus to the wider world as the incarnate Christ. So now, theologically, the reason this is significant is because this is the first indication that Jesus came for all people, all races, all people, and the work of God is not limited. The Magi were Gentiles, foreigners. The wise men from the east were not in the inner circle. They were not from the religious establishment. They had no standing at all in the faith tradition. And yet, the outsiders see something about what is God doing for the inside. So the wording in the Greek language suggests that the wise men were priestly sages from Persia or our modern-day Iraq, and they were experts in astrology or in dream interpretation. The Magi really do represent the non-Jewish faith tradition. This Epiphany story moves our faith narrative forward and challenges us to pay attention to God, to God's presence in the world. And as we pay attention to God's presence in the world, it enlarges our understanding of God's nature. God is not only the Yahweh of Israel. God is not only the God interested in human history and its outcome. God is not only the creator, sustainer of this planet. God is active, engaged, creative, sustaining our lives, our corporate life together, and the life that we share with others throughout this whole beautiful earth. Epiphany is not just a great story, it's worth paying attention to it. And also worth paying attention to is the star. Now, if I had a little drum, that would have been a little musical interlude there. The star has symbolic significance beyond our literal understanding. The star indicates how God uses real things, things in this world, things in our everyday lives, to make known or reveal what we need to see. So I do believe that God is often present right in front of us. And if we're not paying attention to God, we can't see. God puts things right in our view, like a shining star in the sky, or a single candle that unexplainably lightens up a dark room or a dark place within, or a ray of sunshine that beams on someone who needs to be noticed. I believe that God puts things in our view and expects us to be open to receiving them. It's been said that faith involves the transformation of perception that gives us the ability to see and understand something of God's reality that adheres to the visible. God is working just out in front of us, and we have a great view. What does the Bible say? Jesus teaches his disciples to seek ye first the kingdom of God, or as one paraphrase puts it, give your entire attention to what God is doing right now. So God is doing something right now, today, here among us. Something right out in plain view for us to see happen this past week. And it hurts my head to think about it, how complicated it must have been to accomplish this venture 4 billion miles away. In the far reaches of our solar system, New Horizons sent back the first look 2014 MU-69, or as we know it now as Ultima Thule. It's the furthest object ever explored in space. Now, I thought Ultima Thule was the name of one of Irma Thurman's children, but I was wrong about that. In the Latin, it means farthest most, a distant place beyond the borders of the known world, right out in front of us, but maybe not in quite full view yet. We saw the picture of this. A pixelated image, blob of something. And a few days later, the image appeared to take a form like a bowling pin kind of shape. Right out in front of us, a few more days later, the image came back as this. So if we believe that God really does put things in our sight, and that God expects us to receive them, what could or what is God revealing from beyond the borders of space? If I believe that God gives us the ability to understand something of God's reality, what could or will God be showing us 4 billion miles away? Poet and scholar and teacher John Philip Newell writes, "The wise men go beyond the boundaries of their homeland to find light." And tragically, often we have been given the impression that we have all the light we need within our nation or within our religious tradition or within our cultural inheritance. But the gospel story points to something radically different, that there is light beyond our inherited boundaries. And that we need this light, that it is given to complete the light we have received, not to compete with the light we have received. We need one another. The gospel points to something strange looking, something different. The light beyond our inherited boundaries. And we need this light. So the Magi have been on my mind, because their story is dancing in my head. It feels more like I'm now participating in this story from another time and another place, but way out there, 4 billion miles away, we now see something in the sky. And I wonder, as they started their journey, literally or metaphorically, did the Magi comprehend what they would discover or what they would experience? I wonder about what they pondered along the way. And is that star shining in the east as frightening as the image of 2014 MU-16 for me and for us? Because could God be revealing something of God's reality? Could we too end up following and experience the presence of God and become so overwhelmed with joy as having experienced? So nobody knows where the discoveries might lead and what it might reveal about God or our solar system or about the unknown region of space or even about us. But we need not be afraid. Not afraid of what we might see or where it might lead us. For the how-to questions and the why-to questions are fruitful dialogues. Because on this Epiphany Sunday, as we gaze into the vastness of the universe and beyond, what is it that God is revealing? What is it that we will discover? And where might that lead us? The wise men from the east observed the star shining, and so they went. So let us venture forth to live more faithfully in the light of God. So we've kind of adapted this sharing light as our theme for the year. For as far as the eyes can see, as far as human calculations can imagine, there is light. There is God, our God, shining light and sharing light, the light of Christ.